your city or county hoping to deal with your child's asthma.
We're going to slip away from the last few minutes of Mr. Carney's briefing to take you live now to the floor of the U.S. House. You can watch the rest of the White House briefing on our website, cspan.org.
Father Conroy.
Let us pray. Loving God, we give you thanks for giving us another day. As the remaining days of the fiscal year wind down, forget not your people. There are many differences plaguing our nation's discourse. Please send wisdom upon the leaders serving in government and goodwill among all the principals in current negotiations. We thank you for the service of so many who work every day in this building, whose labor provides the lubrication for the very public actions of the members of this assembly. May all that is done this day be for your greater honor and glory. Amen.
The Chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson.
Everyone, including our guests in the gallery, please join in. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Chair will entertain requests for one-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition?
Address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, in less than 1 week, funding for the federal government is set to expire, which would result in devastating government shutdown. On Friday, House Republicans passed a bipartisan continuing resolution to keep the government's doors open so the services are not interrupted, our national security will remain intact, and American families will be protected from the unsustainable, unaffordable health care law which destroys jobs. It is obvious the President's threat to veto the legislation that we cannot rely on the Commander-in-Chief to negotiate. Sadly, last week he ordered his administration to prepare for a government shutdown, proving he is unwilling to help solve this crisis. Now is the time for the Senate to act. House Republicans remain optimistic that Senate leadership will find a solution to prevent the President's government shutdown. I appreciate the courage of Senator Ted Cruz to educate the American people on the consequences of big government, reducing freedom. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we'll never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Arizona seek recognition?
I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlelady from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service recently published notice of 2 proposed rules. The first is to delist the gray wolf and list the Mexican wolf as endangered. The second is to consider expansion of the geographic boundary of the Mexican wolf experimental population area in Arizona and in New Mexico, as well as modification of the 10J rule for managing the experimental Mexican wolf population. Much of the area in consideration is in Arizona's 1st District, which I represent. The service has not scheduled a hearing of these proposed rules in Arizona, where folks live and work on these multiple-use rural areas. It is imperative that the service hold hearings in Arizona close to the areas that are most affected by these proposals, and that there be adequate time to analyze and submit comments. It is equally imperative that the service continue to work with, as a partner and cooperating agency, the Arizona Game and Fish Department. This is the boots-on-the-ground state agency the service has depended on the most in managing the Mexican wolf program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, in just 6 days, Obamacare's insurance exchanges are scheduled to open. But what consumers will find in terms of health plans and cost will be a far cry from what they were promised by this administration. The American people are tired of Obamacare's broken promises. President Obama said that if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. But that just isn't the case. The authors touted this law as a job creator, but instead it has caused employees to lose hours and made small businesses drop coverage for employees and question whether they can continue to hire. Mr. Speaker, with the mentality of we have to pass it to find out what's in it, this administration forced a 2,000-page bill into law. This doesn't even account for the already tens of thousands of pages of regulations folks are having to go and navigate through. It's clear from reports detailing increased costs and taxes to the polls showing that the majority of Americans do not want this, that Obamacare must be repealed, reformed, or delayed. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman from Washington is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to discuss the need for a bipartisan solution to our nation's immigration challenges. This past Saturday, I spoke at a naturalization ceremony in Tacoma, Washington, where 72 men and women from all corners of our world took their oath of allegiance to our nation. I saw the joy on the faces of these new Americans, our brothers and sisters, including several military members who risked their lives to protect our nation before they themselves had the rights of citizenship. Personally, the day also marked the 65th anniversary to the day of my grandmother and my mother's immigration to the United States from Holland. The occasion served to remind me that we are a stronger nation because of our nation's diversity and the experiences that people bring here. We are indeed a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws, and it's time to modernize those laws in a way that allows us to further secure our borders and create a feasible solution for the 11 million undocumented people here in the United States. Improving our legal immigration system will ensure American workers receive the benefits of competing on an equal ground. It will reduce exploitation and give undocumented workers and their families a path toward achieving opportunity. I hope we can cross party lines and pass a meaningful, comprehensive immigration reform bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from North Carolina seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, the gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on behalf of North Carolinians who cannot afford to be worse off under Obamacare. Today, single North Carolinians in their mid-20s can pay as little as $35 a month for health insurance. Under Obamacare, they will pay $183 for a bronze plan. In direct contradiction to the President's promise of savings, health care costs for a family of 4 may even increase $7,000. Where is the affordability in that? Americans aren't interested in the administration's PR. They're concerned with whether they'll have to spend more on January 1 than they are spending today. The answer to that question is sadly yes for many in my state under Obamacare. Obamacare is going to hit too many North Carolina families right in the wallet. It should be repealed and replaced with our American Health Care Reform Act. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from the Virgin Islands seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker, and to revise and extend my remarks.
Does the gentlelady seek unanimous consent?
Yes, I do.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In just 6 days, the health exchanges will be open for enrollment, and many people will have access to quality, affordable health care for the very first time. The Congressional Black Caucus just completed 8 town halls across the country to fully and accurately inform our communities about the exchanges and Medicaid expansion, and when and how to enroll, and who their navigators or their certified enrollment assisters are. Everywhere we went, we found people hungry for the information we shared, including how the law had already helped thousands of people in their area, the young people who stayed on their parents' insurance, the many Medicare beneficiaries who were able to get preventive services and wellness visits without a copay, the many people who got significant rebates from their insurance companies, and how much each Medicare beneficiary saved in prescription drug costs. And they were very angry about the misinformation that continues to be spread about the Affordable Care Act. We Democrats are proud of the work we did with President Obama to create this law and to make wellness a possibility for many who for far too long had been left out of the health care system. October 1st signals a brand new day for them and for our country, and we should celebrate it and do everything we can to make sure everyone in our districts enjoy its benefits.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask the consent to rise, address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend.
Without objection, gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the Speaker. Well, once again, the President is trying to mislead and hide the truth from the Congress and the American people. The Department of Health and Human Services yesterday released a report on the pricing of health plans on the federal exchanges, a perfect example of bureaucratic doublespeak. The report was quick to say that rates were 16% under their projections. Well, that sounds great, but what were their projections? Does that mean the rates will increase or decrease? They went to a lot of trouble to avoid answering that question. Some digging by Forbes magazine, however, uncovered the truth. For 40-year-olds, rates will increase by an average of 99% for men and 62% for women. It seems that the truth is a lot different. The biggest problem, however, isn't the rate increase. It's that with only 5 days left until implementation, the administration is unwilling or incapable of answering even basic questions. The data they released was only partial data samples. It's time for the Department of Health and Human Services to stop playing games, stop hiding the truth, and it's time to give the American people the full truth about what the President's takeover of health care really means. I yield back.
There being no further requests for 1-minute speeches pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess until approximately 5 p.m. today.
And the House returns for legislative work at 5 o'clock Eastern. 4 bills on the agenda today, including one that deals with federal helium reserves. The House this week awaits Senate action on the continuing resolution, or the CR, that would fund the federal government past September 30th. House leadership is warned of a possible weekend session if the Senate sends back a modified CR. House Republicans might also consider legislation later this week that would tie a 1-year increase in the debt limit with a 1-year delay of the health care law. The ceiling expected to be reached on October 17th, according to Treasury Secretary Lew. And you can watch live coverage when the House returns right here on C-SPAN. We also plan